Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Young and the Restless channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. Now let's jump straight into today's exciting update. The quiet streets of Genoa City are once again about to become the stage for another storm, and on Wednesday, July 15th, the emotional fallout from Patty Williams' terrifying rampage will continue to send shockwaves through every family caught in its path. As the dust slowly begins to settle, new alliances, painful betrayals, and dangerous schemes will emerge from the chaos, proving that the greatest threats are not always the ones carrying a weapon. While some hearts begin to heal after surviving unimaginable trauma, others become consumed by anger and revenge, setting the stage for conflicts that could reshape the Abbott and Newman families forever. Every decision made in the aftermath of Patty's attack carries enormous consequences, and every conversation has the potential to ignite another emotional explosion. Just when it seems as though the nightmare is finally coming to an end, an even more shocking chapter quietly begins to unfold. The emotional wounds are still painfully fresh after Patty Williams left devastation in her wake, and no one feels that pain more deeply than those closest to Jack and Diane Abbott. The terrifying attack nearly claimed Jack's life, while Diane narrowly escaped becoming Patty's next victim after enduring a horrifying kidnapping orchestrated through Kyle. Those frightening moments forced the Abbott family to confront just how fragile life can be, and now they are struggling to process everything they have endured. Yet amid all the fear, there is one unexpected blessing that has emerged from the darkness. Facing death together has reminded Jack and Diane of just how much they mean to one another, strengthening a bond that had already weathered countless storms over the years. Sometimes tragedy has a strange way of stripping away distractions and revealing what truly matters, and for these two, surviving Patty's madness has only deepened their love and appreciation for each other. As Wednesday's episode unfolds, viewers will finally be treated to a much-needed moment of warmth after so much heartbreak and violence. Jack is expected to be released from the hospital, marking a significant milestone in his recovery after surviving Patty's brutal attack. Walking back through the doors of the Abbott home will represent far more than simply leaving a hospital bed behind. It will symbolize hope, resilience, and another chance at life. Diane will be waiting with overwhelming relief written across her face, grateful beyond words that her husband has survived such a terrifying ordeal. Every glance between them will carry the weight of everything they have endured together, while every gentle gesture will reflect a renewed commitment to protecting the future they almost lost. Diane will lovingly fuss over Jack, making sure he rests, helping him settle back into his home, and caring for him with the tenderness that only someone who nearly lost the love of their life can truly understand. Their emotional reunion promises to offer viewers a rare moment of peace, proving that even after unimaginable darkness, love can still find a way to shine. But while healing begins inside the Abbott home, another emotional fire continues to rage elsewhere, and its flames are directed squarely at Victor Newman. The consequences of Victor's decision to lure Patty Williams back to Genoa City have become impossible to ignore, and now the people closest to him are refusing to stay silent. Nikki Newman, devastated by everything that has happened, reaches a breaking point as she confronts her husband over the disastrous chain of events that followed his reckless actions. She knows exactly where this nightmare began, and she has no intention of pretending otherwise. Victor may have believed he was controlling the situation, but instead he unleashed a dangerous and unstable woman whose obsession nearly destroyed multiple lives. Nikki's anger is fueled not only by fear for the Abbott family, but also by disappointment in the man she loves, making her confrontation with Victor deeply personal and emotionally charged. Victor, a man rarely accustomed to being challenged, will be left stunned by Nikki's accusations, and the sting of her words will cut far deeper than he ever expected. The tension surrounding Victor had already begun building during the events of Tuesday's episode when Nikki was spending time with Victoria Newman at Crimson Lights. Their conversation took an unexpected turn when Kyle Abbott walked in carrying shocking news that neither woman was prepared to hear. Without holding anything back, Kyle revealed the horrifying details of Patty's violent attack against Jack and explained how Diane had also become Patty's intended victim through an elaborate kidnapping scheme. As the horrifying picture came into focus, the atmosphere inside the coffee house shifted instantly from casual conversation to stunned disbelief. Kyle's emotions were impossible to hide as he spoke, and beneath his fear and frustration lay a growing sense of fury directed toward one man. He openly blamed Victor Newman for everything that had happened to his parents, refusing to let the Newman patriarch escape responsibility for the catastrophe that had unfolded. The accusation landed with enormous emotional force because, as difficult as it may be for some to admit, Kyle's reasoning makes perfect sense. Had Victor never manipulated Patty into returning to Genoa City, none of the violence, terror, or suffering that followed would have happened at all. That realization becomes the emotional foundation for everything Kyle does next, and his determination determination begins leading him toward a path that few could have imagined. While most people would want nothing more to do with Patty after witnessing the destruction she caused, Kyle reaches a completely different conclusion. Instead of avoiding the woman who nearly tore his family apart, he makes the astonishing decision to seek her out. His destination is the local jail, where Patty now sits safely behind bars after her violent rampage finally came to an end. Knowing she is securely locked away gives Kyle enough confidence to face her, removing at least the immediate fear that she might physically attack him once again. Even so, the idea of voluntarily meeting with Patty seems almost impossible to comprehend. It is a move so unexpected that even longtime residents of Genoa City would struggle to believe it if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. As Kyle sits across from Patty inside the jail, the atmosphere promises to become thick with uncertainty and psychological tension. Rather than confronting her with anger or demanding answers, Kyle takes a far more surprising approach by attempting to establish a connection with her. His goal is not forgiveness, nor is it understanding. Instead, he has arrived with something far more dangerous in mind, a proposal. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Kyle intends to make a deal with Patty, a development so shocking that it feels almost unimaginable considering everything she has done to the Abbott family. The thought of these two working together would have sounded absurd only days ago, yet extraordinary circumstances often lead people toward extraordinary choices. Kyle believes he has discovered an opportunity hidden within the chaos, and he appears willing to take enormous risks if it means achieving the outcome he desperately wants. That outcome centers on one person and one person alone, Victor Newman. Kyle has become completely consumed by the belief that Victor must finally be held accountable for the devastation he has caused, and he is determined to become the Abbott who succeeds where others have failed. Rather than allowing Victor to continue manipulating everyone around him without consequences, Kyle intends to strike back in a way the Newman patriarch will never see coming. Whatever plan has formed inside Kyle's mind clearly requires Patty's cooperation, making this unlikely meeting far more significant than anyone initially realized. Yet the enormous question remains hanging in the air. Will Patty actually agree to help him? And if she does, what could Kyle possibly offer a woman as unpredictable and emotionally unstable as Patty Williams? Every negotiation comes with a price, and viewers will soon discover whether Kyle is prepared to pay whatever Patty demands in exchange for her assistance. The deeper Kyle ventures into this dangerous strategy, the greater the risks become. Patty is far from an ordinary ally, and history has repeatedly proven that trusting her comes with potentially devastating consequences. Even behind prison walls, she remains capable of manipulating emotions, twisting situations, and influencing those willing to let their guard down. Kyle may believe he is the one controlling this meeting, but dealing with someone like Patty is never as simple as it appears. Every promise carries hidden dangers, every conversation hides unpredictable outcomes, and every alliance with Patty threatens to spiral into complete disaster. The Young and the Restless spoilers make it clear that Kyle is stepping into territory far beyond his experience, placing himself in the middle of an incredibly dangerous game whose rules he may not fully understand. Whether his bold gamble finally brings Victor Newman to justice or ultimately creates an even greater nightmare remains one of the biggest questions hanging over Wednesday's explosive episode, leaving viewers eagerly waiting to discover just how far Kyle is willing to go in his relentless pursuit of revenge. The deeper Wednesday's story unfolds, the more it becomes clear that the scars left behind by Patty Williams' reign of terror are not simply physical wounds that can be treated in a hospital or emotional bruises that fade with time. They have fundamentally changed the people who survived them. Every member of the Abbott family now carries a different burden, shaped by fear, gratitude, and an overwhelming realization that their lives could have been shattered forever in a single violent moment. While Jack and Diane embrace the opportunity to move forward together, Kyle finds himself unable to follow that same path. Instead of focusing on healing, his thoughts remain consumed by the man he believes started it all. The image of Victor Newman continues to haunt him, growing larger in his mind with every passing hour until revenge begins to feel less like a choice and more like an obligation. For Kyle, the situation is painfully simple. Even if everyone else sees countless shades of gray, his father nearly died after being stabbed by Patty. His mother endured the terror of being kidnapped and almost lost her life as well. Those horrifying events were not random acts of violence in Kyle's eyes. They were the inevitable consequences of Victor's manipulation. Every terrifying memory, every sleepless night, and every painful conversation leads him back to the same conclusion. If Victor had never brought Patty Williams back to Genoa City, none of this nightmare would have unfolded. That belief has settled deep inside Kyle's heart, transforming grief into determination and determination into a dangerous obsession that refuses to loosen its grip. Victor, meanwhile, finds himself facing something he rarely experiences: judgment from the people closest to him. Nikki's outrage cuts far deeper than the criticism of any rival because it comes from the woman woman who has stood beside him through countless battles over the years. She knows Victor better than almost anyone else, and she understands that many of his plans are driven by a desire to protect the people he loves. But this time, good intentions are no longer enough to excuse disastrous results. The chain reaction triggered by bringing Patty back to town has become impossible to defend, and Nikki refuses to ignore the suffering that followed. Her anger is fueled by heartbreak as much as frustration, making every word she directs at Victor impossible for him to dismiss. Victor's own emotions are expected to boil over as well, though not necessarily in the way people might expect. A man who has spent decades controlling situations and staying several steps ahead of everyone else suddenly finds himself cornered by the consequences of his own decisions. He feels betrayed not only by the disaster itself, but also by the realization that those closest to him are questioning his judgment. From Victor's perspective, he believed he could control Patty and use her as part of a larger strategy. Instead, everything spiraled beyond his control, leaving innocent people injured and longtime relationships pushed to their breaking point. For someone who prides himself on always being the smartest person in the room, admitting failure is almost impossible, making the emotional fallout even more explosive. And yet perhaps the most unpredictable element of this entire story remains Patty herself. Locked safely behind bars, she no longer has the freedom to physically terrorize Genoa City, but her influence has hardly disappeared. Patty has always been a woman whose greatest weapon isn't simply violence, it's her ability to manipulate emotions, exploit weaknesses, and draw others into her chaotic world. Sitting across from Kyle in the visiting room, she may recognize almost immediately that he is carrying something dangerous inside him. His anger toward Victor burns so intensely that it could become the very opening Patty needs to insert herself into another complicated game. Whether she chooses to cooperate, manipulate, or completely surprise him remains uncertain, and that uncertainty makes every second of their meeting feel increasingly suspenseful. Kyle, however, appears convinced that he can handle whatever Patty throws at him. He walks into that jail believing he is the one with the plan, the one calling the shots, and the one setting the terms of this unlikely arrangement. But history has repeatedly shown that anyone who underestimates Patty Williams usually pays a very heavy price. She has an unsettling ability to blur the line between ally and enemy, making it nearly impossible to predict where her loyalties truly lie. Even if she agrees to Kyle's proposal, there is absolutely no guarantee she will honor her side of any bargain. In fact, agreeing too quickly could be the biggest warning sign of all, because Patty has never been someone whose motives are easy to understand. As these dangerous negotiations quietly unfold behind prison walls, the emotional contrast with the Abbott home becomes even more striking. Jack and Diane are focused on rebuilding what almost slipped away forever. Every quiet moment they share is filled with gratitude, reminding them that surviving such a traumatic experience has given them another opportunity to appreciate the life they've built together. Their home, once overshadowed by fear and uncertainty, slowly begins to feel warm again as Diane lovingly helps Jack settle into his recovery. The emotional distance that life had occasionally placed between them has vanished, replaced by an even deeper appreciation for the simple gift of waking up beside one another. In a city where betrayal often overshadows love, their reunion stands as a rare reminder that genuine devotion can still survive even the darkest chapters. Unfortunately, not everyone in Genoa City is choosing healing over vengeance. Kyle's determination continues pulling him toward increasingly dangerous territory, and the more he focuses on defeating Victor, the less he seems to recognize the risks surrounding him. Revenge has a way of convincing people that every sacrifice is worthwhile, even when those sacrifices include their own peace of mind. Kyle believes he is preparing to deliver justice, but there is a growing possibility that he is actually walking into a trap of his own making. If Patty decides to play along with his scheme, the consequences could stretch far beyond Victor Newman, placing the entire Abbott family in jeopardy once again. One reckless decision has already nearly destroyed them, and another could prove even more devastating. By the time Wednesday's episode reaches its closing moments, viewers will likely find themselves asking more questions than answers. Can Jack and Diane truly leave this nightmare behind and embrace the second chance they've been given? Will Nikki's confrontation finally force Victor to acknowledge the catastrophic consequences of his actions, or will his pride only deepen the growing divide within the Newman family? Most importantly, what exactly is Kyle planning, and why does he believe Patty Williams is the missing piece of his revenge? Those questions hang over Genoa City like gathering storm clouds, promising that the aftermath of Patty's attack is far from over. Instead, it appears to be opening the door to an even more dangerous chapter, one where revenge, betrayal, and unexpected alliances threaten to reshape the lives of everyone involved. As one family fights to heal and another struggles with the consequences of devastating choices, The Young and the Restless is preparing to deliver another emotionally charged episode filled with suspense, heartbreak, and shocking twists that no one will see coming.